intimidation, manipulation, target intimidation, indoctrination. Welcome to another show. Resilience, gaslighting, and of course, manipulation. I get my ideas from the comments, from personal experience, and targeted individuals, even though they're dealing with different things, it's kind of the same. And I've mentioned before that if you consider yourself a targeted individual, there's a chance that your harassment could drastically change or maybe even stop. But usually it doesn't happen that way. Usually it just changes up. And if you're one of those targeted individuals who's dealing with gaslighting, you are dealing with V2K or demonic stuff, you are dealing with break-ins, you're dealing with, covert poisonings, food tampering, street theater, directed conversations, your phone's getting hacked, you're getting workplace harassment, your personal property is being attacked, you're experiencing neighborhood campaigns, noise campaigns, synchronicities, chances are it's probably not going to completely go away. It's going to switch up, okay? And there's a lot of things that people talk about. They're the chosen or, other things. They may be of a certain blood type or whatever. I look at this as something that was brought into your life as a destructive, negative, mechanized force, and God is simply going to use it and turn it around for your good. There are a lot of people who are skipping down the yellow brick road into nowhere. They don't have any discipline. They are not awakened to the reality of what is around them. And targeted individuals, they know, okay? It might not be fun. It might, not seem like something that's positive. And I'm not suggesting that this is a self-improvement project and the people that are involved in it are just trying to help you. They'll try to gaslight you and get you to believe that. I think the demonic forces will do that. But I think it's just because they know that they can kind of get away with that because God is very generous, very kind, and very loving. And he cares about you, okay? And he is going to use it for something good. And when they fail to destroy you, well, what else are they going to say? Oh, we weren't really trying to kill you or drive you crazy. We just wanted to help you. Yeah, right. But that's part of what we're going to deal with. I was watching a guy's YouTube channel, Josh, and he talked about that. What is this stuff? What's going on? Is it because I did something? Is it a punishment? Is this some type of way to get me in line? Because a lot of people deal with that, and it's mechanized for that type of gaslighting. But as I mentioned, God can literally use it for that, but you have to decipher the whole situation. You have to process the information right. We'll just say you're like I was, and you're, an alcoholic or whatever. You have, some character defects. Is that justification to drive someone crazy and gang stalk them and do all these things, make them scared and paranoid and all? No, it's not. But at the same time, God did use those things to kind of wake me up, okay? Because, a lot of people will look at this, or even people in theology, and they'll say, God is, it was his idea. He is determining things, and if God's not in control, then who is, and my gosh, and they'll use all these, different words out of context or different types of methodologies, shame, gaslighting, to get people into the place where they believe that God is the one ordaining all these things and bringing them about by secondary causes. I believe that the kingdom of darkness is in charge of that, and they're setting everybody up Okay, they might be doing it differently than the method that targeted individuals are dealing with, right? They might be blinded in a way where they don't even believe that there's such a thing as evil, and all it is science. And we're evolving, and one of these days we're going to mingle with artificial intelligence, and it'll be like Star Trek, and our new evolution will take us into a utopia where we explore the cosmos forever. Well, that's not what's going to happen, okay? And if you're someone who's participating in gangstalking, or if you're someone who denies the reality of evil or their need for the gospel or Christ, they're going to end up under the wrath of God. And I know it's confusing, and there are a lot of lateral comparisons out there to accomplish that confusion. And that's where faith is the axiom, because everything is going to appear different from what the Word of God says, and you have to decide what you believe, okay? But what I'm getting at is, look at it as a gift. I've mentioned before that if you guys want a video, give me a suggestion in the comments. I always read all the comments, and I look at all this stuff every day. It's lonely being a targeted individual. This is for me as well as for you. And Willow Tree, a shout out to you, had a very compelling story. And as far as being a targeted individual who experiences heavy harassment, Willow Tree is definitely at the top of that list. And there are many of you out there who are dealing with things that are just unreal, that are unbelievable. And those comments are very inspiring. And I know there's a lot of targeted individuals out there who are dealing with higher forms of harassment, and you are very resilient. Okay, and it's inspiring, and it's difficult. Dublin Fitzpatrick asked me, how do you know if someone is stalking you? How do you determine that? And, you have to be very careful when you're processing information as a targeted individual, because this stuff is designed to drive you crazy, to get you to question your perception and get you to believe that you have some type of mental disease. And the problem is this type of traumatic invasion into the mind of the targeted individual can temporarily sometimes give you things or symptoms, I guess, that would be similar to mental illness. You've got paranoia, you might be reading into things, you become sensitized and conditioned to notice certain things, and that's when you get people who, wow, every time I see somebody wearing a red shirt now, it's just, or they'll notice different colors, or, cars with one headlight, or aerial vehicles. And I'm not suggesting that those things are not involved in your harassment. You're going to have to make that determination. But the point is, you can become conditioned or sensitized to notice those things. And even if something is involved with an innuendo that sounds like it has personal information, and it could be harassment, but you know what? You need to be skeptical, and here's why. Okay? Because since you know that the whole idea is to get you to read into things and to gaslight you, you want the perpetrators to be as obvious and as aggressive as possible. So you want to ignore that type of behavior. You don't want to ever try and call it out, or look over at somebody if they're doing a directed conversation or whatever. You want to pretend like you don't notice it at all, because this whole thing, the axiom of this is your acknowledgement. They want you to notice it. They want you to react, to become emotional, to be triggered by whatever they're doing. And if they don't feel like you're noticing them or acknowledging them, it's going to frustrate them, and it's going to cause them to become more aggressive and obvious. And that's going to kill the gaslighting. Okay? You can turn it around on them. That's how you do it. Because if they don't get the desired result, who's putting all the effort into this at that point? Well, it's them. And what are they getting out of it? Nothing. They're not getting anything out of it. But as far as criteria to determine if someone is harassing or stalking you, do they have personal information that can only be acquired by spying on you? or, looking into your background information, maybe hiring a private investigator, hacking your phone, installing hidden cameras, and so on and so forth. Or it might even be a little freakier than that. It might have something to do with information that's divulged from the spiritual dimension. But how frequently are they using it? What are their mannerisms? What seems to be their motive for bringing things like that up, so on and so forth. The most difficult scenario that targeted individuals are going to be dealing with is that directed conversation, the innuendos, and so on and so forth. And for that kind of stuff, I would tune it out. I wouldn't try to figure it out. I wouldn't be sitting there going, oh, I wonder if this person is... I would totally just ignore it, because if an individual is working for the government, they're going to be very professional, and they're going to mix that stuff up in a way that's probably going to mess with your head. If someone is being influenced spiritually, it's even worse. It's just something that you're going to have to move on with your life anyway. And if you're just noticing a bunch of people who are just out to harass you, it's going to be pretty hard to do that. Because if you really consider yourself a targeted individual, well, then no, the people are going to be messing with you, and you're just going to want to kind of tune all the stuff out. You're going to become kind of numb to everything, because you're only going to want to pay attention to, like I said, something that's very obvious and very aggressive. And if they want to get your attention, they're going to have to do that. And then, well, it's a no-brainer, right? You're not going to have to sit around, I wonder if that person is, you're not going to be sitting around scratching your head trying to figure out if someone is a perp, right? It's going to be obvious. So you kind of got to desensitize yourself and just start, be aware of your surroundings, but you want to, just kind of ignore that kind of stuff. You shouldn't be listening to it. It's something you have to train yourself to do. Willow Tree also mentioned that keeping yourself distracted, having hobbies, taking your mind off this stuff is very important. You can't control what other people are going to do. You can't control them. You develop protocols so you don't have to wonder what's going to happen and, sit around and stew about it, because they want that. You know what you're going to do. You have a protocol set up. You're not going to sit around and anticipate it. You're just waiting for certain things to happen, and then you employ it, and the whole situation's pretty much already taken care of. Workplace harassment is like that. And there are times where there's just too much of an opportunity for people to harass you, and it becomes, one of those situations where you got to leave and find a different job. But you don't want to react. You don't want to give them the idea that if they, poke at you or, mess with you a little bit, that you're going to just be noticing everything and you're going to go try to find a job where you're not being targeted. Chances are it's going to be wherever you go, right? So you want to try to control it in that aspect. But, it's about keeping yourself busy. And if you're experiencing workplace harassment, if you're doing your job and just doing what you're supposed to be doing and being productive and ignoring these idiots, that's your best defense. And it's the same way in a life of a targeted individual, that you just want to keep yourself busy and try not to think about it and be as productive as possible. Put one foot in front of the other and just keep going, right? Be the anvil that wears out the hammer. Be resilient in a way where they're the ones that want to give up, because they're just not getting what they want out of you. They're not getting the desired result. They're not able to manipulate you. They're not able to put little strings on you and move you around. That's what you want. And usually the individuals involved in Gangstalking are going to throw the paradigm at you that you're playing a game. Of course, you're being ganged up on. It's not fair. And you're supposed to feel like you're losing. You're supposed to get all worked up and everything. It's meant to create that tension. I've talked about this before, that the people involved in this are really going to get the raw deal. You have to remember that. Yes, it's destructive. Yes, it's meant to drive you crazy. It sucks. It looks like they're getting away with it, but they're not. And I think deep down they know it. And when you don't react, you don't give into their little, game, and you don't give them a reaction, it reminds them. It does. It reminds them of that, even if it's subconscious. So just remember that. And when that question, why are you being targeted, pops into your mind, I think it'd be the same reason as to why people are mugged or murdered, or why there's wars, because you're living in an imperfect world. And people are evil, and there's very malevolent forces at work. That's why. Don't look at it any other way. Don't look at your personal defects. Don't believe the gaslighting, and know that God is going to work things out for your good. Okay? If you seek him and ask him for help, he's going to do that. And that's where you are, and that's really the dilemma that everybody's dealing with, whether they know it or not. Targeted individuals are handed a situation where it's very obvious. Okay? So like I said, just look at it as a gift. And if the accusations and suggestions are coming at you that, this is just to help you or whatever, those are lies, okay? This is not the way to help someone, okay? You don't do that. You don't drive somebody crazy or scare the crap out of them or make them paranoid or harass them at work or whether that's none of that's in the Bible, by the way. And so, the problem is when you get into that paradigm, which is what they're trying to create, then you have a serious contradiction, right? Because they are creating stress. And we'll just use the situation where you have an addiction or something, right? Or a besetting sin. And all of those things are usually channels for people to work out their anxiety or frustration or to self-soothe or comfort themselves or whatever. You get drunk or whatever, maybe sex, whatever it is, right? And so, don't do it. Whatever you do, we're trying to help you with your problems and everything, but they're going to create the medium in your life to where they're actually going to drive you towards those lines in the sand and get you into a place where you're more likely to engage in those activities. And so they're not really trying to help you. They just want you to internalize the shame, guilt, and condemnation for that. And they want to use this whole idea, whatever you're dealing with, that they're trying to help you and that you just don't get it and you just don't learn, and look at all the things you've suffered, but you're still not changing. And they don't care about that. They just want you to internalize this stuff and feel condemned. So they're not really trying to do that. They are creating the very medium to accentuate those propensities, and then they're just going to accuse you after you fall into their little trap. And this type of gaslighting is used to get the target to believe it's justified, and the people involved to feel justified in what they're doing, and it's all a bunch of baloney. And speaking of baloney, if you throw the spiritual paradigm in this, that God is the one who thought all this up and this is his plan for your life and everything, that's going to be very, very confusing, because even though God does discipline those he accepts as children, the gospel is about forgiveness, and all this stress, it's going to force you into a predicament where your character defects are magnified. So if you buy the idea that God is trying to help you this way, you're going to be really confused, because it's actually going to push you into areas where you're probably going to make mistakes. And then, of course, you're going to get all those accusations, and it's going to make God look like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's the dude in the Subway sandwich shop who doesn't know how to make a bologna sandwich.
Billy, what the hell are you doing? You put the meat between the buns.
I thought you just had to stack it up on top of everything.
Wait, what the hell are you doing with the mayonnaise?
He said he wanted mayonnaise on it.
Who in their right mind puts mayonnaise on the outside of the sandwich?
I usually just dip mine in it.
There's no way you're that much of an idiot. Who's gonna be able to grab a sandwich covered by a bunch of greasy mayonnaise?
Yeah, poor little Billy. Well, if you guys want a video, put it in the comments. I'd like to give a shout out to, of course, Willow Tree, Josh, Dublin Fitzpatrick, Mr. Beach Walker, Nick, Lord be a lamp unto my feet, Invincible, Laura, Don, Jeremy, you still out there? And what about Alves? Hope you're doing well.
Consistency. You're facto university. Adversity. Targeted monstrosity.